They also have the opportunity to sit in with other city committees and participate as well as non-voting members. So I'll let them introduce themselves, but they'll be sitting in today as one of their first. They also have the opportunity to sit in with other city committees and participate.
Today on vacation. So unless there's any questions, off we go. First order of business is approval of minutes. You'll see them on page 2 of our format here, and that's was
Today on
covering our
vacation.
work session.
Very okay. Unless there's any questions, off we go. First order of business is approval of minutes. You'll see them on page 2 of our format here, and that's was a vacation.
No, I'm hearing another voice. Am I the only?
We're hearing voices.
Somewhere, but everything's set up correct.
Okay, do we just ignore that?
Just ignore that.
Okay. Okay, good. Modern technology. All right, any changes you'd like to make to the minutes or additions, corrections, et cetera? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion for,
Move to accept.
somebody's seconding, I'm sure. And Ron seconded it. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries unanimously. On we go. I'd like to just a couple introductory remarks. We did have the Oregon Main Street Conference down in Albany for 2.5 days. It was very well attended, great sessions. A lot of it had to do with historic preservation and coordinating that sort of thing. And we had an outstanding turnout from Dallas there. We had 10 of us there that I counted. And it was a real learning experience. Tyler represented the city very well. He was at all these events. Helen, of course, was there and going to everything. So there were a lot of takeaways from that help what we do here. So and the second thing I'd like to say is I want to compliment Tyler. I sent him a note this morning that not all the boards, commissions, and committees in the city are as fastidious about providing good agenda packets as Tyler is. And you lose sight sometimes of that he gives us nice big thick packets full of information and staff work and the minutes from last time and so forth, and well in advance. And so we'd like to thank Tyler for doing that. It's not always done by everybody, but Tyler does it for us. On we go to the update of the historic building narratives. Tyler, you want to take that? Or do you want us to?
It's your project, so
Okay.
I'll let you guys update us on
You
it.
handed us the ball. We won't try not to drop it. Well, let me tell you what's going on. tried to keep in touch with everybody to make sure that we have adequate coverage of as we review our work and so forth. We've had to reshuffle a little bit in terms of who's doing what. Ron had to pull aside because of his business commitment, so we are in the process of redistributing his work to other folks. And I've sent out a spreadsheet with the review process results and so forth. And we're able to keep track of things in that way. We have, I think, one decision that we need to make, and I favor one aspect of it, and that's that we have to give you a final product by the 31st of October unless that's changed.
No, if we can keep that October 31st deadline, that would keep the project on track. So we would like to be
We're
able to do
conscious of that. This is an enormous amount of work. It's actually taken days and days of my time and others as well. Foss.
You want us to turn in what we have, even if it's incomplete?
Yeah, I think if you guys have narratives that you are ready to turn in, and even if it's not all of them, that'll at least allow our contractor to be able to start putting things onto the website, getting the recordings done, and other things like that.
Say I have 5 complete and 2 incomplete. Do you want all 7?
No, if we hit the 31st, then if you guys can just give me what you have complete and then keep track of what's incomplete and then turn those in.
We need to work on what's incomplete.
Yeah.
There's 2 ways we can do that, if I may, and that's that they can route their complete work, let's call it final product, where it's been reviewed and they've reviewed it and we all have reviewed it to our satisfaction. Then it goes to you for publication. I assume that you conduct a certain amount of review in terms of formatting or whatever so that all is consistent. Do you want, I think it'd be best if they route it through me, so at least I'll have track of it and then send it to you. So you'll be getting these from me as they're finalized,
Right.
rather than everybody, 4 of us sending the things into you willy-nilly. And I will send them, if you're agreeable to that, if everybody's agreeable to that, I'll send them in when I get them or shortly thereafter, so you don't get a wad of them on the 30th of October or something like that.
Yeah, no, I think that works perfectly. As long as what you're sending me, if you can indicate that those are the complete ones that are final, we'll do that last format look over, and then we'll get them sent off to Altermedia to get onto the website and get the recording started and those types of things.
Okay, good. Well, we will, then I will put the word final in there, so it has a consistent format, so you'll know it's coming to us as the final edition. It's not just ruminating about something or other, unless we have a question, and then that would come under the question category.
Perfect.
Okay, is that okay with everybody? Just send them to me in your final form. Indicate it's your final product, and then I'll consolidate that, take one last look at them for format or whatever. And, if there's catches and my word processor catches something, we'll send it on to Tyler. Then shortly after I get it from you, I'm not going to batch them over to him. Does that sound all right? Okay, good.
The only reason I asked that question about complete and incomplete is that there are a lot of contingencies here. For example, my internet connection was down for 8 hours yesterday. So I did not get any work done online with reference to this project.
I don't think, Tyler, if I read you correctly, you want a final thing that goes in you don't want, we'll keep track of the ones that are still due out for whatever reason, and there may be some. You want our best effort, let's call it, as final at that point, and it may be contingent on more information coming along. Because they can update the website, can they not?
Yeah, the website can be updated, but so my understanding of what you'll send me beginning on the October 31st is a product ready to go on the website. So if
As our
you guys
best-
don't feel comfortable with it going onto the website, don't send it to me.
Okay, and
'Cause
I will
that-
indicate
yeah.
on the 30th or something that we're having to withhold some, and it'll just be, to be determined or something on the website, or
Right.
to be published or
Right.
something. Work in progress, whatever term you want to use. And then we'll keep after it. Some of these buildings don't have much of a history. We don't even have photographs of some of these things past yesterday. So we're doing our best. Yeah, you're going to get some good narratives.
And I think we recognize that some buildings are going to have more history than others. I think that's understandable and completely normal for communities. And so I think the focus is make sure that the narratives are representative of what you all as a body would like to see represented. And then we'll move forward from there. But obviously, a website can be updated. So if something comes along in a year or two that you guys are able to find, we can add that.
One of the things we're trying to do is to be quite accurate, because this is going to be information that's probably going to have quite a lifespan, maybe a long time. So we want to get the information correct, because we don't want to, forward a myth or bad information or something like that. And very often we don't know the exact date, so we'll put C for circa in there and try to nail that down as close as we can. Okay, the other thing is that these things are going to be translated into some sort of a verbal narrative, as I understand it, and for like a walking tour and that kind of thing. But obviously, some of ours are pretty long and academic. Somebody's going to have to kind of edit them down to where they're more, I don't know, more understandable on a short narrative, verbal narrative. Is that your plan? Somebody's going to do that?
That's what we're going to be paying Ultramedia to do, is turn the written narratives into an audio narrative that can be either listened to or read.
Certainly some of ours are like 1,000 words and pretty technical detail about architecture and various things. Okay. Good. Any questions? Doing all the talking
Since we're
here.
on procedures here, should we also send copies for review to Ron Woodruff?
Oh,
Okay, well, he dropped out of the project. That's my understanding. So,
Yeah, I can review, I can read them.
okay,
because he's an architect, so he can do architectural things too, like Italianate, commercial Italianate and all that. Art Deco.
If there's a term that's misapplied, I can say, okay, this is not right, or it's close, or if it's really bad, you got the totally wrong term. Probably not the case, but at least I can watch it.
So I would say when you send out your narratives for review, include Ron in the list. And I've got a handful of them to send your direction. I can't keep up with all of this because it is very time consuming, but I'm trying. And we've got a pretty good return right now. Okay, anything else on that topic? Anything you need our advice on that topic?
Nope.
The narratives? Okay, it's a lot of work, like I said. The next topic here on the agenda is addition of buildings to the local landmarks register, and you've got quite a packet here for us on that one.
Yes. So Brian had reached out and wanted to formalize getting all of the buildings that are on the national register and not on the local register, making sure that those two lined up as much as possible. So before you today is the current local landmarks register, that's attachment B, and then the application that we submitted to the National Park Service for the National Historic District. Now most of the buildings that are within one are within the other, but there are a couple that aren't. And so we're just going through and cleaning that up. That way the lists match. Again, this is something that's typically a best practice. It was something that was discussed during the work session with Curry when we met back in August. Simply administrative change. We're not going to be doing anything major in terms of changes to the local landmarks register. And so if this is recommended for approval, it'll go to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission will make a recommendation to the council. Council we'll make that final approval and then we'll add those buildings to the register and revise the local register with some additional information for each of those buildings. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty cut and dry. It's fairly an administrative change.
Let me ask this question. Are you talking about just the contributing buildings or brand new buildings?
Just the contributing building.
Okay, but not, I don't know, Peffley's, medical clinic.
Just the contributing building.
Just the contributing, the ones that we're working on?
Yes.
For instance. Okay, just contributing. Second thing is, in a local register, correct me if I'm wrong, people have the right to, owners have the right to object to being on that. And I assume that fact will be the same. That
Yes.
they'll be
And-
able to object to their being on the local register.
Yes. So before this goes to the planning commission, it'll go through the regular land use noticing. So that each of the property owners will receive a notice, and at that time they can come to the planning commission and request to be opted out, or they can opt out at a later time if they wish to do so.
Unless they officially opt out and informally opt out, they're in. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions about that? All right. I guess you need a recommended motion, which would read, I move to recommend that the Planning Commission add all contributing buildings from the National Historic District to the local landmarks register. Anybody want to make that motion? Ron makes that motion. Anybody want to second it? Oh, Dan seconds it. Okay, any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for all that work. Appreciate it. On we go to the fourth item on the agenda, and that's other staff updates. And you provided us with a staff report that lists those updates.
Yes. So following up on the work session with Curry back in August, her overall recommendation was continue to familiarize the commission with the historic preservation practices. So the big part of what we're going to do and what was part of her recommendation is once the new development code and municipal code are finalized, we'll be using a future meeting, probably likely in 2026, to essentially do a mock historical appropriateness review. So I will bring you an example of a building that is seeking that certificate of appropriateness. I'll have a staff report with my recommendation. You guys will provide your feedback, and then we will go through that process based on what is outlined in the preservation code. So that's where we'll start there, as well as any other questions that you all may have that come up. Now, once the municipal code and development code are finalized, we'll still have to go through a process of establishing a application process, see if there's any application fees that we would need to apply to the application, but that won't affect our ability to do a kind of a mock process. But that's something that we can anticipate probably doing sometime next year once everything's finalized and we have a full internal system in place. Next, in terms of website review, if there's anything on the historic preservation website that you all would like to see updated or changed, you can let us know and we can make those changes. Related to the code changes for the development code, the development code changes were approved through their second reading at the city council, by the city council at their October 6th meeting. Now what needs to happen is those changes need to get notice to Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development, or DLCD, and wait 30 days before they are officially incorporated into the development code. And then the municipal code changes are soon going to be approved by the city council. Those so much won't affect the development code aspect and the review aspect, but simply an administrative change that's putting the structure of all of our permanent city committees within the same code. Whereas the Historic Preservation Commission was unique and was the only one that was outlined in the development code, we're using this opportunity to simply move it over to the municipal code where all the other committees are.
So they'll basically be the same, but consolidated.
Yes.
They'll be, Not gonna change the
The word-
concept going
The
on.
wording will not change. It's just going to be moved over to municipal code where where the other constitutions for the committees are.
There's no change to
I'm aware of.
what we do or why we do it.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, well, if there is, let us know. So,
In relation to historic district signage, I wish I had an update. We continue to work with our partners for these signs, but they're just very slow to respond. We're going to continue that push. But it's one of those things that's too complicated of a process than it should be. And with the kind of the uncertainty that ODOT's been facing the past couple of months in terms of funding, they've been prioritizing some other things, but it's something that we're going to be working on over the winter. Hopefully, since construction will be slowing down, we'll be able to take advantage of that.
ODOT's name came up frequently at the conference, not always with how well they support us.
We're hoping
That's
that,
Oregon Department of Transportation.
and we're hoping that that support can continue. It's really just a matter of making sure that this is something that's on their radar and we're trying to follow the process correctly.
Those signs are really important. They
Yeah.
really bring people off the highway. People want to see what we got going on down here. Go ahead.
Next part is the 791 Main Street project. So staff and the consultants, we've been meeting individually with prospective developers to facilitate conversations about potential development at the site. And then we'll be proceeding with evaluating 2 submissions that we've received before entering into an exclusive negotiating agreement with one of those development teams. And it's our expectation that the building design that you have been seeing throughout the visioning process that's on the poster out there, that the building is going to look very similar, if not identical, to that. This process isn't going to change that, and there still will be a final design proposal that's going to be proposed by the developer once we get to a development agreement in the future. So we'll have some further updates on there.
Do have a question about that. It appears, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it appears that our new responsibilities under the code, which a continuation of the old responsibilities, is if they're going to build in the historic district, there's got to be some involvement of us in terms of the way you just will describe it here, I think later. But that's outside, that particular lot is outside the historic district and won't fall under that particular piece of our work. I'm assuming that because it's surrounded on 2 sides by our historic district and everybody seems to want it to mirror the style and feel of our historic district, and we may be actually involved or asked to comment on that is that correct? That we will probably have some role to play as this evolves?
Again, so we don't have a development agreement and we don't have a final design from a developer. We don't have a developer selected. So we'll have to evaluate once we get to that point. But both of the developers have made clear that they want to match the historic character of the downtown. We've made it clear to them that it's something that the community has highlighted as a point of importance for this development. So it's not our expectation that there's going to be a modern designed building proposed there. And if there is, then we can address the issue there. But
I would think we would have some comment about that. All of us have reviewed that proposed design that came up that Brian presented to us. Brian, the consultant. There's 3 Brians involved in this, and it was met with great approval. I believe is excellent design, captures the look and feel of what people are looking for, I think, and if they exercise most of the elements of that design, it would be very well received.
right.
That's
Yeah.
my opinion. Is that?
And again, that
Right.
the design that was presented was mostly an artistic rendering. There will be things that will need to change once the
Sure.
whole architecture and engineering work is done, but it's our expectation that they will look fairly similar. And it's the expectation.
Speaking for the group here, I'm not talking out of turn on that, am I? You've all seen the drawing.
Yeah, I've seen it. I'm the new guy here, but I'm kind of fundamentally opposed to buildings that are too high. I mean, since you're asking my opinion, is it proposed a 5-story building, a 4-story building?
It'll be either a 4 or 5 story building.
I guess I to answer your question, I didn't see it. I'm not a big fan of a 5-story building in the middle of Dallas, surrounded by 2 and 1-story buildings. It's incongruous to me.
The style of the building meets your, with your, okay,
It's like a 7-foot tall kid next to,
all right,
5th graders.
okay.
That's my 2 cents. It's probably a little too late, but I was asked.
I don't know. Well, and we're an advisory committee. That's what we do, is offer advice.
Schools are out. I don't know why. You just said that it's not part of the district,
It is not.
so. I mean,
It's surrounded on 2 sides. Your building is right across the street.
So I don't know if our opinion matters in this situation, but I was asked my opinion, so that's my
Sure.
opinion.
That's why we're here. Also, the Downtown Association is pleased that there's an effort made to retain the visibility of the train mural, because that's an important artifact in the Downtown Association's world. Okay, there you go.
The next update we have here is the police station, and the update I received is the project is entirely conceptual at this point in time. The city council has directed city staff to work with the architect to complete a value engineering exercise for the project in an effort to reduce the overall price. This may alter the building layout, design, etc. But as it relates to the Historic Preservation Commission, the project will come to the commission after, if a bond is approved, and a more fleshed out building design is ready for review. And at that time, the city will follow the application for historic review of appropriateness. And the HPC will have the opportunity to review that design and provide feedback to the historic preservation officer, which is me. And then the code authorizes me to have the decision-making power on that appropriateness, but that's done in concert with you all once we get to that stage.
It's my thought on that our mock-up, our mock trial, or whatever you call it, reflect at least some of the principles in here as practice for what we would do if this comes up. A new building, for instance, in the district, that surrounded by other historic buildings, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and
Which
that's
process do we go through? What are the elements of what we have to look at and how to look at them?
Yeah, and I discussed that with Curry, and she's more than happy to connect me with other cities that have had a similar review process happen. And essentially, what we would do is essentially steal their staff report, and you guys would evaluate it as if it was happening here in Dallas. So
It'd have applicability to what we may be facing.
Yes.
So we're learning the right lessons.
Yes.
That seems ideal to me. Curry is a real good messenger for all this stuff. She had a really good closing speech at the conference and talked for about an hour nonstop, but made sense every minute.
Yeah, no, yeah, she's a great partner, and once we get to that part of having a mock hearing, then we'll be soliciting her help to make sure that we can find a good example that kind of covers the bulk of the bases. That way, you guys can get a full scope of what that's supposed to look like. Next, we were asked about kind of remaining goals for the year. Obviously, goal number 1, continue work to complete our current CLG project, which we got an update on earlier. And then once the development code changes are finalized, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to begin working on the internal processes for how an historic appropriateness review would fit in with other building and planning processes. So in addition to creating the process itself, we're going to make sure that it fits in with our building and planning process so that it's something that can happen at the same time as those processes and not something that would hold up a project. So for example, with Dan's project, if this was in place. There would still have to be a historic appropriateness review. And so we want to make sure that it's something that can happen as, his building permits are being approved rather than something that is happening after and further delaying the ability for him to begin on the project. So that's something that we'll be working on internally to make sure that we can manage that.
We can have special meetings too, if we need to. We don't want to be the holdup for somebody.
Right. Yeah. And it's not the meetings that we're looking at. It's simply making sure that all of our staff are aware of the process so that if they get a building permit for a historic building, that they're able to also be able to help that applicant begin the historic appropriateness review rather than it be something that's caught before someone's about to begin any type of construction work or anything like that.
There's a lot of moving parts in some of these things. For instance, there's that $3,000 grant for planning this sort of thing. And that can be part of the process. There's also tax situations coming up in November. There's a tax benefit coming up at the state level, but it has to be applied for. And I don't know if Dan's aware of that or not.
I think you sent me an email. I haven't really had time to look at it yet.
But it does, it abates taxes for a period of time, state taxes, like for 10 years or something like that. It's a kind of a major benefit, but you have to get the number of boxes checked along the way. And given that he's already started with the project, I don't know how that, it may be that until you are actually, the deconstruction aspect of that may not be the start of the project exactly until you start
Yeah, I'll give it
fixing
a look.
things.
I'll give it a
Something to
look.
look at.
And
Anyway, that came up
I
with
think
it.
Helen and Rebecca might have some more information if you have some questions.
That's one of the things about educating people we can do here is educating about the benefits of historic preservation, and some of it's some of them are monetary, which is nice. Go ahead, sorry.
And then the final part of this general staff update here, it was a question about the budget. Again, we have $12,650 was awarded to the city by Oregon Parks and Recreation for the CLG project. That was a 50-50 grant, so we're spending 50% of the cost on the project. They're reimbursing us the other 50%. And those are the only funds that we have appropriated for historic preservation for the fiscal year. And so again, as we head into evaluating the next budget for the next fiscal year, if there is a specific project that the commission would like to have funds for, whether that's an educational project, signage, anything like that, we can have that conversation and we can work that into the department's budget ask.
Okay, as I understand it, the CLG grant is every other year. Is
Yes,
that correct? So we got it this year, or was that the last year that we got it?
we got it. We were awarded it in 2024.
So we're
But we
due
could be
for
eligible for it in 2026.
26, and that will be around $12,000 again.
We can be awarded up to $15,000.
15?
Yes.
Okay. So so that your ask then, if we want to do anything, is an important ask because there will be some money. Apparently it's a match. So if the city has $15,000 lying around looking for something to do with it, they can match that money, bring us 30,000 to work with. Is that correct?
Yes. So to receive the 15,000, our project would have to be at least $30,000 in value.
You have anything in mind yet?
Yes. One of the future projects
This
that,
is for a calendar year, is that right? We're working on a calendar year.
yes.
Okay.
And so one of the future projects that we would like to be able to do is provide building owners that own historic buildings with funds to be able to help them obtain architecture services if they want to do work specific to a historic building. So this would be a type of project that would supplement some work of the small projects grant through the Urban Renewal Agency. And it's a program that has shown a lot of promise in other cities around Oregon. Independence is one of those cities that has kind of piloted a program like this and has showed promise. And we think as we move forward with some other work with historic buildings, this could be a good opportunity to be able to provide those building owners with some additional monetary assistance to be able to have their projects fully scoped out and designed. So that way they can be bid more accurately, they can move through the permitting process more accurately, and then any type of scoping and design work can be used for grant applications as well.
Good. And that's in addition, like you said, to the 3,000 that would be available through the
Yeah. So
URD.
our hope is that this would be a separate program that both building owner can apply for both.
Both and combine them and so forth in the way that, because that's a 50, the 3,000 is a 25% match, I believe. And the other would be a 50, no match. Well, you'll have to figure that out. We'll have to figure
Right. Yeah. We haven't done the work to construct the program yet since we're still focusing on the current grant cycle. But that is one idea that we have looked at for future years, considering that we've done the big lift of establishing a historic district. What we want to do is make sure that we're providing resources to the building owners within the district to be able to upkeep their buildings.
This would be a nice supplement to the Diamonds in the Rough grant. For instance, it could be a planning to help with the Diamonds in the Rough grant, which is $20,000, $20,000, 50-50 match. And then there's the $25,000 that could be possible from the URD, which could help match that Diamonds grant. I mean, it gets a little complicated, but there's
Right, and
There's
that would be
ways
the
to handle
the
this.
goal of this program is provide additional funds so that they can hire an architect to fully scope out the project. That way, it makes it more competitive
Right.
for
or the
grant,
Diamonds grant, for instance.
whether it's state grants, federal grants, city grants,
Okay.
any types of grants.
So there's some really good grants floating around out there. And we have the buildings that could use, I mean, there's several of them we've already identified that have been plastered over, plywood and plaster and so forth, that could be brought back to their original appearance. Dan is doing a fabulous job of that.
So, as a building owner, I would have welcomed, I mean, I got it, but I would have support, like you were saying. That's a very important component. And I think if that had been in place earlier, some of these buildings have kind of been remodeled in historically insensitive fashions and it would have prevented that. So.
Yeah, and we've identified that deficit, and rather than trying to put that full burden on the property owner, we want to try to be able to make this program work for us, and be able to prevent that in the future.
Quick before you leave, I've sent something to both of you and both of you use Hotmail and both of them bounced. And there's something going on with Hotmail maybe, or it doesn't like me. It's possible. Okay, who knows? Thank you, Dan. Okay, reflect that Dan's left us. We still have a quorum. 3. Okay. That's as near as I can tell, that's everything. Any comments from the group? Any comments from the group? If you take a look at the website, and I guess you're happy to hear from us individually to Ben or you or
You can
both?
email me or Ben or both.
Both or, okay, so if you see something that could be improved or is wrong on the website, just let them know and they'll deal with it. There's a lot of cross linkage sometimes that you change one thing and you should have to change 2 or 3 other things. And I think we'll find that maybe when we have new, the city gets done with the code improvement. Sometimes there's stuff in the background somewhere that needs to be changed too, that because there's a lot of interdependencies on some of that stuff.
Right.
Look at what we had trouble just changing our name to the historic preservation. I'm still running across the other stuff. Lots of different names of us, what we do. Any thoughts for us from Dallas High School? How you doing over there?
I thought it was pretty informative, this meeting. Yep.
Brian,
Yeah.
clarify CLG.
CLG, certified local government. That's where the state has a program. that encourages historic preservation, and cities can become a certified local government, which I guess the big thing there is it makes you committed to historic preservation. For instance, having this commission, and also they have a grant system. Every other year they have up to $15,000. It's a 50-50 match, and we take advantage of that every year. It's a generous grant system. So being a CLG member is a pretty good thing. If you want to sit on any boards, commissions, or committees in town, just let us know. We have a lot of them with the Downtown Association, the Chamber of Commerce, Visitor Center. We all have things that we all have bodies that contribute to the cause. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Anything else? Okay, going. See you in January 14th.